All right, guys. So we went over this bad boy yesterday in class. What's a piecewise function? It's just, in small terms, it's just a graph in pieces. Now, what makes this one super hard for you guys is you have to know how to graph all the old things that you guys used to know. And there's no way to tell which ones you guys aren't going to understand and understand. So, what I've done is when we explained it the other day, I've kind of showed you a different way where we use these numbers as input output tables. Okay. So I'm going to do something off to the side here that looks a little different. And now that I'm looking at this, I'm going to do my notes next time a little different, but we'll make this one work. So I'm going to do, let's say, I'm going to do this first equation right here. I'm going to do that in this red color, and I'm going to call that f1 of x. f1 of x. And that's equal to x minus 2. So if I do an input output table, if I just go like this, I just make my little t right here, and then I say, okay, my first number I have to put in is -1. So if I put -1 in, here's my x, here's my y. If I put -1 in, I put my -1 into that one, and I get -1 minus 2, which is -3. So for this equation here, I go over to -1 and down to -3, and I put my open circle. My open circle is because it's less than 1. Since this tells me right here, I'm going to do that in blue here. This little piece right here tells me that my boundary is -1 and I can take everything to the left. So that means my next number has to be -2. -2 minus 2 gives me -4. So I go to -2 and I put -4 and I draw my line. Not very good. It follows this, but I would draw my line. That's how I do the first one. That's f of 1. That's piece number 1. Okay, so now what I do from there is, if I can find my little button on my pen, is I take my next one. Okay, and I take my next piece here. I erase this one, and I'm going to go back to my drawing, and I'm going to go to green, let's say. So I'm going to make this one green. So I set my input-output table up again, but this time it's my second equation, f2 of x equals x plus 3. Here's my x, here's my y. My first number I can put in is -1. I put in -1 plus 3, I get out 2. That's this one. It's a solid dot because of that greater than or equal to. Now this tells me I go all the way to the right. So then that means I got to do a number to the right of 2. You know what? I could pick 0, but let's pick 2 instead. So I'm going to go all the way over to 2. So I'm going to pick 2. And 2 tells me that it's going to be 2 plus 3, and that's going to give me 5. So on my second equation, another point is 2 and 5. So I go over to 2, I go up to 5, and I put my dot. And then I connect my lines. And then this one goes on forever. I could have chose any number I wanted to the right of 2 because it didn't tell me to stop. And that's my piece. Yesterday, I talked to you about a boundary. Oops, that's not what was supposed to happen. I talked to you about a boundary here. Let's see if I can get this thing to look right. I talked to you about a boundary, and the boundary, no, I need a freehand, I think. The freehand highlighter, and I put the boundary like right here. Kind of did it in yellow. That boundary you don't write in. That just tells you this thing's going to stop right here. Okay. So that's kind of the idea behind what we're dealing with. Now, real quick, let me go back to my drawing here. We need to come up with domain and range. So if I'm dealing with domain is all the usable x values. So if we really look at these two equations, I can plug in any x value and it works. So I'm going to do all reals. That's all real numbers. If I do my range, if I go up the graph this way, I have to jump between here and here because there's no y values. So my range is y is less than this one here, which is -3, and y is greater than or equal to 2 because it's going to be above 2. And then I got to jump over and go to here and I go up to 2. There we go. Okay. So that's how we tackle that particular type of problem. So let's look at, we did this one in class. Let's look at a little different one here. Let's look at, we're going to graph f of x, and that one's going to be -2, and if x is less than 3, and then we're going to go x plus 2 if 3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 5. And then we'll just do x minus 1 if x is greater than 5. All right. So 3 different equations. So I want to kind of do this a little differently. So let's kind of tackle this. Let's do f of 1. I'm going to do f of 1 in blue. F of 1. F, the first function, which is this one right here, is equal to -2. Okay, so what does that tell us? All right, so let's do my input-output table, x and y. So this is telling me if I put in an x value, I automatically get out y. Because remember, this is the same as y. This says y is equal to -2. When? Doesn't matter. Y is equal to -2. Y is equal to -2. So let's start at my starting point. This tells me I'm supposed to put in 3. So if I put in 3 to this equation, what do I automatically get out? -2. This tells me to go to the left of 3. So I put in 2. What does this give me? -2. So they're constantly giving me -2. So I can put 1 in, I get -2. I can put infinity in, and guess what? I get -2. So this thing's at the y value of -2, and it doesn't change. That's number 1. Okay, so let's do green now. Let's go this color here. So I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to say, my hand's falling asleep the way I'm writing, guys. So let's go to this next one, and I'm going to do f of 2 of x, which is equal to x plus 2. Sorry, this is just x plus 2. It's this one right here. I'm trying to squeeze it in, guys. So that means I do this. I do my x and my y. And this tells me to start at 3. So I'm going to start at 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. Okay, so then I'm like, well, wait a sec. What's my next available number? Okay, don't be tricked by this point arrow pointing to the left, because this is really saying that x is greater, 3 is less than x. That means my next available x has to be greater than 4. Greater than 3. So if I look at this and I want to go to the right, this tells me I'm in between these two. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my other point, I'm going to plug in 5. When I plug in 5, I get 7. So this is an x value, and this is an x value. So they give me two x values. Now I have 2 points, and I can draw my line between the two. So then let's tackle the next piece here. So the last one, I'm going to put that one in what? Decisions, people. Decisions. We'll do red on that one. So my last one, f of 3 of x, it's going to be x minus 1. That's this one right here. Okay? Oh, man. My hand is falling asleep for some reason. Oh. So if I do that, I've got this piece here. So then I draw my input-output table. I'll just do this a little bit differently, like I said, x and y. And I know my first number here is 5. So when I plug in 5, I get out 4. This says the x is less than 5, or x is greater than 5. That means all my x values have to be greater than 5. So what's my next available x value? It's 6. It becomes 5 as my input. So now I go over here. At least I can draw this halfway decent because it's a straight line already. And then I just go and draw my graph on the side here. And I am going to take my first line, which is F1. I'm going to go to 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to go down to -2. -2. I'm going to put a solid dot. Oh, wait a sec, guys. I need to start drawing. There we go. I need to put a solid dot. I changed colors up. Put a solid dot here. And then I go to 2 and -2. So 2 and -2. 1 and -2. Infinity and -2. So this thing is a straight line that goes that way. It's a solid dot because of this guy right there. Okay. Hand's still falling asleep. Let's do the next one. Here's my next one. Go to 3, and I get 5 out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. There's my first one. Then I go over to 5, and I get 7. Over 5, I get 7. And I messed this one up. This one should be an open circle. That should be an open circle. And this at 5, it should be a closed circle. And so I go like that and connect the dots. It says it's between 3 and 5. So there we go. Now, let's look at my next one. It's the last one in red. And I put in 5 and I get out 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put in 5 and get out 4. Put in 6. Should be an open circle. Put in 6 and get out 5. And then all of a sudden, there's my new line. Not very straight, but that's what we're looking at. Okay? So just do input-output tables. Follow the rules, and you guys will be fine. All right. So let's go tackle this other piece here. All right. So now we've got to look at this next piece. So this is what I want you guys to do. I'm taking a drink of coffee. My shoulder and arm stopped becoming tingly because my shoulder is all messed up. Okay. So we have to write functions. So here's how we're going to write functions. So these are a little tougher. I'll just work with this one right here. This one here, I'm just going to go with f1 of x. Okay, and I'm going to use y minus y1 equals slope times x minus x1. Now, if I look at this here, I'm going to say, okay, this thing, that's 2, so this is at -1. So let's just tackle this piece right here. we've got an equation right here of a line. And I want to create my equation based on y minus y1. So we just pick a point. So this point here is going to be -1 and 1, 2, -3. So my point is -1 and -3. I just chose the starting point of the line here. That's my -1. My slope, I'll just count. Uh, you can count if you want to, however you want to do that. I don't know. So let's see, 2, 4, 6, so 7. So my slope, my changes in y is -7 because it goes down, and then 3. So I'd be -3. I'm just counting down and over, and so my slope is 7/3. So this is what we get. I get y minus -3 equals slope 7/3 x minus -1. So that is my first equation of a line. So let's clean this up. Y plus 3 equals 7/3 x plus 1. So then I get y equals 1/3 x plus 1. I'm going to subtract a 3 over, get my 3 over here. So this is my first equation. So if I come up here, I say f of x is, the first equation is y equals 1/3 x plus 1 minus 3. If, and I don't have enough room, if what? If this is at -1, if it's x is less than -1. Okay? I wish this thing would let me write on the side. Be a lot easier. That doesn't help. Okay, so that's how you come up with your first one. I'll try another one for you guys. Oops. So you're just making equations and pulling it off the graph. Okay. So, wait, this is not how I got to do this. I'm not thrilled with the eraser of this thing, so it doesn't work very well. Kind of irritates me. So let's hopefully do the next one a little better. So go up here, I'm going to make it blue, let's say. So I'm going to just be working with this one right here. So I'm going to go, I need an x1 and a y1, and I need a slope. So my x1 and y1, let's look at this. I'll just use this one, -1, +1. You pick, remember on this, you can pick any line, -1, +1, any point on the line. And then my slope, remember each mark is worth 2, so this is 2, 4. So my change in x is 4. My change in y, 2, 4, is -4 because it's going down. So this is -1. So what's my new F2 equation? F2 of x is equal to y minus 1 from here equals -1 times x minus a -1, which is +1. So that means my new equation, it's not equals, it becomes y equals -1 times x plus 1 plus 1. That's my equation. Okay, so where does that come from? That's going to be between -1. So -1 is my left number, -1. And my x, or my line, is in between there. And then this is 2, 3. And this one's going to be a solid dot for that one. And this is going to be a less than 3. And then there is my equation of a line. So then that one goes in. This is y2, so this data goes in there. So you've got to be able to take your old information on how to build equations and then you build equations. Is it tough? Yes, it is tough. We're just going to keep working through it and you guys will be fine. So that's kind of how you do those. All right, guys, we will talk to you later, and that's an extra example, and we'll work through it. You're going to have to come up with a way to remember how to graph equations of a line. So